had some just going to say, Coach, give me your best short yardage play. What would you do? And I'll tell them, in order to do that, you're going to need to practice that daily. Yeah, like over and over and over. And so that's where I was heading with people coming to visit, people asking questions of, it's not a couple play series or short yardage, it's all in it.
This is Keith Grabowski, founder and CEO of Coaching Coordinator Network. We've kicked off our series, Slot-T Mafia, with Coach Paul Kilby. The series digs into the history, teaching, and evolution of the Slot-T offense through the coaches who built it and continue to carry it forward. If this conversation sparks more interest in the Slot-T and you're serious about building a clear offensive identity and teaching it with confidence, visit Slot-T.com and join the coaches carrying this offense forward.
It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a running back delivered, but you can get baby back ribs delivered. A strong defense? No. A strong deodorant? Yes. A six-pack of abs? Nope. Six-pack of beer? Yes. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol 21 plus and in select cities. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Okay. Today on the podcast, we have Coach Alan Haire, who's currently at Jarrell High School. And Coach Haire is a Slot-T guy through and through. And Coach Haire, you're a really unique guest on the show in that, on one of these podcasts, in that you're unique in the sense to me that in Texas, where the Slot-T was invented, you were the only coach I know that never coached in the Slot-T and then, got a different position and ran it on your own. You learned it, quote unquote, remotely. And we've talked a lot about that over the years. Coach Haire and I have known each other for a good 20 years. Can you share with us the history and process behind how that all unfolded? I know you went to Liberty Hill a lot when you were Lago Vista. I'm not going to ramble here. I'm going to let you take over and explain that situation to us.
Okay. First of all, Coach, I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate what you do for not only the Slot-T, but for football and athletics in general. 1998, I went to an organizational clinic at San Marcos High School, 1998-99, when Bruce Bush, the Godfather, was fixing to retire. And I went because of I'd heard stories of his organizational technique. I was still an assistant. I was a coordinator, but wasn't a head coach. And it was in the team meeting room at the old high school. I sit and listened to him and felt very ashamed of me thinking I was ready to be a head coach after listening to him. But one thing, after the clinic, he handed out everything as far as some old series VHS tapes, and he handed out a bunch of different stuff. And I still have his organizational booklet from, like 02, 03. He was just handing out, and I got home and I was flipping through it. And I was like, holy cow, he's talking about who's assigned to check the dryer vent on Thursday night. He's got things in there that you would not ever think of detail wise. And so it's okay. This is a guy here that I like to emulate. And so I kept everything. I kept studying because I was hoping one day to get a shot at being a head coach. And so then therefore accelerate to really 99, 2000. I got my first, I was an assistant in clean for David Wetzel. I got my first head job in 2000. It was at Perrin Witt, which is a Class A school in Texas, up near, Weatherford, Texas, real North Texas. And I had grown up in the spread, mirrored routes, scissors and Aussie and the things, and slips and convoys and screens and all the, forward passing game stuff. And so, went 3-7 there. And Lago Vista, which was down around Slato, where I'm from, I spent 6 years at Slato, and I'll try to accelerate some of this stuff. But I had known about them starting a program. They started a football program, and so in 2002, after my time at Perrin Witt, my principal, my superintendent at Perrin Witt had a board member that was an ag teacher at Mineral Wells High School. Mineral Wells High School had a principal named Barbara Qualls. She's now the superintendent that I'm fixing to apply for over in Lago. She's a suit, but so that ag teacher who was on the board at Perrin put in a good word for me with Dr. Qualls at Lago Vista. and was able to get an interview and fooled the committee, and they gave me the job. And they had been 1-19 in 2 years, won one game. And so, as a young coach getting a head job, you're not going to get a returning powerhouse the keys to the Cadillac handed to you. You're going to go somewhere and build. And so went there, was there 2, 3, 4, and 5. We had our first winning season in 2005, but in 2006, as the worst record in my career, we had a quarterback that was a dude, but he broke his arm in a first scrimmage. And then we went through the 5 quarterbacks, and I told myself driving home from Coach, you would know this. What's the school that has a graveyard for a football field? What you remember? You know which one that is? I can't think of the name of the town. We were driving back on the bus. I looked at the line coach, said, "Hey, I'm not doing this. I'm going to find something." And of course, Liberty Hill's in the heyday, making deep playoff runs. They're playing Burnett in the regional finals, and so in 2006 they won the state championship. And then in 7, they won it. But in 6, when they were doing so well, I said, okay, I'm going to figure out how to run the offense. And then I started researching, and Bruce Bush was the top of the food chain. And so I got him to come visit our staff one Saturday. It was cold and rainy. I still remember smell the office and look out the window and think, I can't do this. I thought he was teaching calculus. I took money matters. I didn't take algebra 1 and geometry. All that stuff. I'm not very smart. And he's teaching it, and you can imagine he's teaching series, and he's talking adjustments, and he's doing that. And I'm thinking, we did, it was 8.5 hours. I don't even know if we took a lunch break. He said, y'all want to keep going? I said, no, sir. That's enough. And my coaches, their eyes are glassed over, and but we're luckily we had a spring to install. And after that, meeting with him and knowing that, people that worked in his system, they're over at Liberty Hill. Jerry Vance was on his staff. Jeff Walker's on his staff. And so I hit up a conversation that spring we had scrimmage Liberty Hill when I first got to Lago Vista. You imagine that, if it was a third-year program, we went over there and scrimmage them. They're running up and down the field, and I'm thinking, well, we're not going to scrimmage them after this, the next 2 years. But so I'd kind of known them, and so Jeff opened the door.
Now, Coach, I apologize for interrupting. How long were you at Lago running a different system? Was it 2 or 3 years, did you say, or more, before you started conversations with Coach Walker?
We had run a spread for 5 years.
5? Oh, it's 5. Okay, I didn't realize it was that long. Okay, sorry for interrupting. I'm ready to roll.
No, that's good. But I thought we were heading somewhere in 05. We won our first district game, first winning seed, and so we're moving in the right direction, and it went downhill. So I get tied in with Coach Walker, who was very nice to me to let me come over, and I would come over and watch them work out. I'd watch them do strength conditioning. And once they went outside in t-shirts and shorts, I learned that maximum effort in their strength conditioning period was key. How you was organized, and from your shorts to your top to every coach in that gym and weight room expected everything out of those kids that they could possibly give. And that's where you say, okay, it ain't just about X's and O's. Look at this. Look how these guys work and get after it, and don't submit to it. Don't let a coach break you. Don't let a coach mentally get into your head that you can't do. I mean, that's where it's built, And so doing that, and again, after, I still got Bruce Bush's playbook over here, which means nothing because there's not all the details. It's just it's a little shell of what's going on. And so I would meet Jeff. I'd pay for his dinner at Chili's. I know we did that several times, and I've got the first napkin. Told you that he drew up 228, and he would get up in the restaurant and hold the fork and say, okay, this is the football. This one's the top. This is where we put it against our third hand. This is the placement. And he'd talk about his eyes, and he'd sit back down a minute and eat a little bit, and then he'd get up and he'd say, stagger. This is where your feet, and and I'm sitting there, and that's enough for tonight, coach, because I'm, and we'd do it again. And then I go watch practice, and then it's okay. I see it. What he's telling me about. So, coach, in 07, we run it. Now, again, 2006, we're in spring ball. We're down on the field incorporating it, and I'm getting pissed off that the fullback is hitting the strong tackle on tackle trap, and I'm thinking, I've seen Liberty Hill run this, and it busts for 50. And so I was having, and stupidness was, I was thinking the fullback went first. So I'm having the tackle run into the fullback, and so I'm thinking, what's going on? I called Jeff, I called Jeff, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And so it's a little easier when the guy goes behind the strong tackle, you know what I mean? Because he ain't going before him. But I knew 234, we're going to run it right up the guard's rear. I knew where he was supposed to be. And I'm thinking, well, he's in front of the tackle. Well, Jeff, no, anyway, we fixed it. And Coach, we started the season. It was rough. We started district 0-4. And so I'm thinking I'm probably going to get fired. You know what I mean? Like, we ain't been very good. Been there. It's my 6th year. And the kids are starting to get it, though. Like, we're getting better and faster. They're getting more confident, and we're in games. We win our last 3, and we have to win on the road to qualify for the playoffs. We qualify. I think we're 6-4, and we have to play the district championship team out of another district. And it just so happened to be Franklin. Well, they run it, Well, my defensive coordinator now, he knows we're running the Slot-T, so he's paying attention. He understands what it's trying to do, so he knew a little bit more on how to defend it. So, Coach, we beat them 21-0 at Pflugerville-Conley Stadium for Lago Vista's first ever playoff win. And just awesome. And so we're thinking, Lee, looky here. And so the next round, we're playing Rice Consolidated. They have a quarterback that signed with the University of Miami. Coach, we miss a field goal at regulation. We lose to them 42-41 in the second round. And so we're feeling good about ourselves for 7-4. And, the rest is history,
The rest is history. Y'all took off from there, didn't you?
Yeah, so it was back-to-back district championships. It's state semifinals. It's 7 of 8 years in the playoffs. I mean, it is, the kids are like, we like it. And they're practicing fast. We're working hard in strength conditioning. And so, we're rocking and rolling. And so we finish up I guess it's the 2013 season, Coach. And we're going to keep this on Slot-T, but you got to be careful as head coaches sometimes. Other people start to look at your success. They start to want what you have, and they start telling you how great you are, and they're starting to give you some attention, and that starts to make you feel good about yourselves, and you got to be careful what you get yourself into with that, because you need to appreciate where you are. So now Lago Vista builds a new stadium, new high school, field house, the concession looks over the field like, everything's rolling, but my superintendent had left during that time, and now he's the superintendent at Stephenville. I did have a school board member from a town called Maybank reach out to me that played for Joe Martin, the executive director of Texas High School Coach Association. And long story short, I went and interviewed. I thought, man, here's another situation just like Lago Vista. They hadn't been anything. It's closer up to Fort Worth, Metroplex, where my wife's from, blah, blah, blah. I take that job. I'm there 6 weeks in my soup at Stephenville. He says, Coach, our coach just he's the linebacker coach at University of Tulsa. We want you to come interview for the AD head football job in Stephenville. Long story short, they wanted the OC to be their head football coach, but he wanted to bring me in as an athletic director. And that's where I went to college, was Tarleton. And so I was familiar. There was a lady on the school board that had taught me some of the class, like she was one of my professors. And so I did it. I don't like talking about going to school for only a few weeks. I did some good things for them. We got a new weight room, got some uniforms, we got the helmets painted. But go to Stephenville 4 years as athletic director, and that's the most loneliest year of my life because I wasn't making a difference. I was just, making sure the lights come on, the officials get paid, schedules. My hometown opens up, Salado. I had been there from 2000, I'm hurrying here, Coach, because I know that we'll get to it, but 94 to 2000, I was there as an assistant. I graduated there in 88 anyway, and they opened up and was able to get that job. And so my first year there was 2016. They hadn't had a winning season in 8 years. And again, we opened up 0-3. We installed a Slot-T. They were spread. We're 0-3 because you know how it is, Coach. We dropped 7 exchanges the first game just because we had to figure out what center can get the ball up. That's why I did a lot of studying on how to take an exchange from a lot of different people. I've tried every technique, but anyway, we were I'm there from 16 to 21, playoffs 5 of 6, regional finals. We're 12-2 one year, and that's the second best record in the history of the school. And I attribute to Jeff, Bush, you. I've visited with you a million times. I even went to visit you when you were in San Marcos. What years was that, Coach?
I was there, 05 to 08. And you came down several times, didn't you?
Yeah. Watch practice. We go in there on the weekend. If you want to be good, you got to dedicate yourself to your craft. Also, you got to be obsessed about it. I'll drive 5 hours to talk to somebody an hour and drive back. I'll go to a clinic. John Hall is at Liberty Hill, and if there's a shot at him, getting a chance to work with him, that's another day for another story. But I remember sitting in a hotel room in Corpus Christi at the Coastal being coaching, and that's where the Mafia kind of met in Bush's room, and 2 or 3 people in the bed, and we had chairs, and I mean, it's bouncing around. Hey, what are you doing that's working? And I'm sitting there going, okay, here's where is the Legends Club right here now. And I finally got the key to be in there. They didn't give me full membership, but at least I was able to get in there. I was associates. I was just hungry for the knowledge, and if they were going to stay up till 3, I'm there. I'm not going to submit to what you're trying to do to me is to confuse me. I'm writing and writing and writing. I was looking through something a while ago, when we met in Georgetown, we met at a little old restaurant. I still got your notes from different things there and just incorporate them. So finish at Salado. Killeen opens up a brand new high school, Coach. It's called Killeen Chaparral. My youngest son graduates. I had nobody really left in school that's tied to me. I still lived in Salado at the time, but guess what, Coach? I'm old enough now. I meet retirement age. And so now I'm looking at my best 5-year averages. Well, Killeen pays a whole lot more in Salado. Money's not everything, but it helps. And so I was able to fool that committee, and I got that job. Went straight into teaching it. We open up there. We're straight in a 5A district, straight varsity. It was probably set up to fail in that situation because we played Killeen and Shoemaker, the first 2 games, but we got 12 seniors that we haven't had off. I mean, we had strength and conditioning. It's just here you show up. It's kind of like a what do you call all-star game. We're here. We meet you. And we got to play in 3 weeks. Well, in this offense, you got to do a lot of reps. And so stayed there 2 years, even though my second year there, we're 4-6 and we missed the playoffs by 1 game. Belton was district champion, and they beat us by 7, 21-14. Chips fall your way. Sometimes we should have got in, but didn't. That's probably coaching, so it's on me. But finished up there in 21, and then Jarrell opens up, which is right down the road from Salado. They hadn't had a winning season in 8 years and was able to get that job in 23. We go 6-4, first winning season, I think, in nine years, whatever it was. And then this year, with time in the system, we were able to have a pretty good season, got beat in the second round by a team that went all the way to the regional finals. And so in a nutshell, Coach, I hope somebody can use that to help. But in a nutshell, that accelerated 34 years of coaching and where I've been, kind of how it went with a Slot-T.
Yeah, you mentioned some things that just spurred memories in me. I'm kind of making notes as you were talking. You mentioned the Coastal Bend Coaches Clinic. I think a coaches school, and I think those meetings, they've kind of dissolved, but you remember the hotel room meetings, the Mafia would get together, and it's kind of selective who get to go in, and you mentioned the fork at the Chili's and stuff, Jeff grabbing a fork for football, and it'd be like that. Somebody be going through steps, and guys are, sitting on a bed looking and just sharing information, what works against what front, and what do you do, against a 5-3 stack, and just the ideas were just, like I said, those are kind of, that I know, I haven't gone to coaching school in a few years in the summer. And it seems to have shifted a little bit. To me, back in the day was the greatest at coaching school, when you just have, yourself, me, Bruce, Jeff, Jerry Vance, you got the Slot-T heavy hitters, in some hotel room, or we, go to a restaurant, or it got to the point where we'd rent a little hall and let guys speak. And, Bruce and I think Les Goad kind of organized that a little, but those were the days, man. Those were some awesome times.
I spent many of, I still stay at the Minger because that's where Liberty Hill stayed. And so, I've got pictures of Jeff had a mini dry erase board, and, he'd sit up court there and in the middle of that little, entrance way, and we'd all kind of drag around chairs, and boy, he'd get to going on that square little, and so he'd draw it up, and I'd take a picture of he didn't know it was from my angle. I was taking a picture of what he was drawing so I could take it back with me, because he said so many great details and things. I would have forgot them, and I couldn't write them down as fast as he was talking. So, I was just fortunate enough to get, hey, we're going to be down in the lobby at 8:30. And so, I'm there at 8:20 because I'm going to get close and get a seat and several times. And, that's where you took some stuff back that you could kind of add to what you'd already learned from him.
Yeah. Yeah, those were good times, and like you said, the details. And for coaches who want to learn this offense, it's not to scare anybody off or intimidate them, but you can never get tired of running the fundamentals, of trying to improve on the fundamentals, and you got to buy into the little things. It is a little thing offense, and you got to really study it. Like you said, you talked about your beginnings. I learned it from Billy Butler, Quinlan Ford in 1998, 1999. And, he was so patient with me, and I was ate up with it. I was absolutely ate up with it. But when I played in college up in Canada, the best team in our conference ran the old Delaware wing tee. They were just, and I played safety outside of linebacker, and I was just blown away by, trying to find out where the ball was and all the reads, and you had to be so precise or they were just going to tear you up. So precise defensively. And I got this appreciation for it, and I just realized, man, when I get into coaching, like, this is it for me. And then for me to end up in Texas and to fall right into it in South Texas with Tony Villarreal down in the Valley working for him, and then going right to work for Coach Butler. But I remember you talking about just wearing Jeff out with questions and things. I remember I would call Butler, Coach Billy Butler, so much, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it, because he's got this young guy on staff who just he's just tore up with this thing, trying to learn it all. And I remember calling him, a summer night at 11:30, and he would just answer his phone. This is, call display or whatever on your own landline or whatever. He would open, "What you got, Kilby?" Like, he knew that there wasn't even a, "Hey, how are you doing?" It was just like, "So on 332, and you've got a 31, it would just be this ongoing conversation that never stopped, basically, about football, Slot-T, and how to block certain things and backfield action, stuff like that. It was just is ongoing. It's so great when you get mentors, like Coach Bush, who Coach Butler, and they're patient with you. And, my early years of learning it, and I think they gravitate to guys who are really ate up with it. And that's one thing I notice about the Slot-T, is it seems like guys are real teachers at heart.
Mm-hmm. I used to call Bush a bunch. Like, I worried he was going to get, but what was a school down south that he finally finished at, that, he was at George West. He was at George West a little while helping, and then he went down there. And every year it was, if I was stumped, I'd call him, and he kind of got out for a while, and I'd call him. And there was 2 or 3 years that, I found other people that I'd call, because I felt like I was just worried that he's going to get mad at me for calling so much. But then I'd call him and say, "I was worried about you, Alan. I look forward to hearing from you, make you feel okay." And so, he was instrumental in the same type of, mentality of being welcoming to any question I had, not making me feel stupid.
It's funny what you thought was the opposite, huh? You thought you're just wearing him out and annoying him, and then he was concerned about you when you didn't call for a little bit. Maybe there's something wrong with Alan.
Yeah, he thought maybe I told him wrong. It didn't work, and I go, "No, Coach, I get worried sometimes that maybe I asked too much, but that I had to early on,
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
You mentioned the first introduction to Coach Bush was organizational talks. And it seemed like when he would clinic talk, it seemed almost 50-50. Like Slot-T, but he would talk about Coach's organization at many, many clinics. Like he was known as, for that as much as his Slot-T brilliance. He was so ultra organized. You talk about who's cleaning the dryer vent, and I think a lot of us grew up in that. And didn't it mesh well with the offense? Like the offense is about being super organized in details, and he ran his whole program that way.
Yeah. No, I squirmed, like I say, I don't know why I went. I just knew that he was well thought of and one of the higher ranking coaches in the profession. So he didn't put out much of an advertisement on that. I read it somewhere, and it wasn't packed. I mean, it was just there at the low, they had a meeting room or something. I can't remember. And I just, I'm starting to look around. He's got stuff stacked up around the edge. You just take what you want. And I was like, I'm not going to need any of those clinic tapes ever because I don't do all that, but I got as much organization. And so I still use his format to this day for every assignment, for all the details on, who's telling us a minute countdown on the halftime clock and, the first 9 minutes of when we come in at halftime, what we're doing. And then the last 4 minutes, you're instructing, it's broken down per every minute of what we're doing at halftime. And that's all attributed to him. And I mean, it is from the trainer to where we have the water and the cups and the electrolyte popsicles. And like, it's like, nobody's going to question what they're supposed to be doing. And I wouldn't have I think that, praise the Lord, I went to that organizational clinic, and that changed my life. I mean, by knowing that he was successful, knowing he ran the Slot-T, and then getting the organizational stuff, and then realizing we needed to go to that, it was a game changer.
Agree more. I couldn't agree more. You were mentioning your first year running the Slot-T at Lago. You had a slow start, didn't you say? 0-2 or 0-4?
0-4 in district wins. So we had 8 teams, so 0-4 to start, maybe 0-3. I can't remember. But, we won a couple earlier. We went in the district with a couple wins, but we were not rolling.
That seems to be, that can happen. I mean, I know, the late great Jeff Walker, when he left Liberty Hill after 2 state championships, he goes to Rogers, and he took off. I think they won 9 or 10-2 his first year. And he just built from there. But my first head coaching job at Mathis, we started off 1-2, and we played a team in just a driving rain and fumbled it like 11 times and lost 4 of them or something. Center exchange. It was just a mud bowl. And back in 2009, and man, those are some lonely moments, as a head coach. Like I remember just thinking, I'm down on the coast there, small community, and are we going to be able to turn this corner? Are we going to be able to, you don't have forever to get buy-in and belief in things. And I'm sure you can attest to this, but you got to stay the absolute course, because we end up getting this thing turned around, and we Sinton was in our district, and Ingleside, they were powerhouses. That first year I was in, we were picked in Dave Campbell's magazine to finish 5th, and we had a 3-way share of the district championship, and then we won a playoff game and ended up going 8-4. And the second year, it was a good deal. We went 10-3 and set the school scoring record. But looking back at that 1-2 start, you couldn't imagine that stuff happening. If anyone told me at that point, from here on, you're going to go 18-4 or whatever, I said, I can't see that happening. My old offensive coordinator, Coach West, you know him well, is up at Bells, Texas there. When he got the job at Bells, it was a second head coaching job. He's at a small school, Collinsville, and went, I think, 8-4 and 10 or 11-2. And he goes to Bells, a little bit bigger school, 3A. And and it's wild because Bell's had really had no success. I think in the school history, they've been to the third round one time. That was their most successful seasons, the third round. And they start off 1-3. And I think we sometimes have a lot of the similar issues, center quarterback exchanges. If you're going from spread, they've never been under center. We struggle with that at Blanco a little bit this year with center exchanges for sure. But he starts 1-3 and they are ready. The same committee and people that were so excited to have him there, only 3 months earlier that spring are ready to run him right out of town. They're upset. He tells some great stories. And they get on an 8-game run. I mean, he said it sounds so similar to the experience he was with me at Mathis we had, you just kept repping and coaching and the little things. And it just turns that corner where it starts to finally look like what it's supposed to look like. And they rip off 8 in a row and go 9-4, and he's the immediate hero, and he's taken off there. They had a little step back this year, but he's been third round almost every year. And if he doesn't have Gunner in his region, who's won, 5 of the last 10 state championships in 3 or whatever, they're going further. Like, he's had phenomenal success there at a school that's been to the third round one time in their 80-year history before he gets there. He's been there, 4 or 5 times in 7 years. So those slow starts there's some lonely look inside your soul moments when you're the head coach and trying to get everybody to buy in, aren't they?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's where Bruce will tell you, if they're not buying it, you're not going to have success. So you got to be a great salesman to get them to believe and buy into what you're selling them. And that was huge. He gave me that advice and that's why, to me, going to a place that hadn't had a whole lot of success when you take a different job helps you install the Slot-T, because they've been struggling in the spread. So why not try this? And so I've been very fortunate to get some of those jobs where they struggled, they'd run the spread. So why not give this a chance? It's not like you had been doing it, and the kid's like, yeah, sure, we just want to win. Do you want to win? Okay, well, let's try it. You mentioned Gunner, at Salado, we ran into West Orange, Pleasant Grove, Carthage, and they were in Region 3. Now they're in Region 4. So it's a bunch of luck of the draw too on your regions and your district draw and who you get the next district over when you can make those runs. But I do think, and I've even talked to Dale this year, a couple things of he does some different things that will help your offense speed sweep wise. He kind of has originated that. It's kind of built off kind of the belief on your jet. Those types of things. Those are 2 different concepts, but he does a fantastic job over there with that. And we've talked a couple different times too. I've had some people. It's funny talking to people. I've had people that call me and it's funny, that want to come visit, want to come. I'm like, geez, oh, peace, I'm the one that's going to talk to people, not used to talking to somebody and say, okay, guys, you're going to need about 5 or 6 hours. It's going to take a while. We'll take a lunch break, but do you really want to learn? And so it's just so many things. But where I was headed with that was, if you want to learn it, you're going to have the time and the patience to incorporate the smallest details of the stance and the warm up and how that evolves into other things. And so, yes, sir, just like you're mentioning there. And I was heading somewhere with a thought about visiting, and I lost my thought there. But it is just the small things that will give you confidence, and it's the easiest, most fundamental play that will keep you in the game. It's not the fancy ones.
Yeah. And that unwavering belief, like at 0-4. And it was the year before you lost your stud quarterback. Was that it? Were you real fired up about your outlook? So we were
1-9. I thought it was going to be 0-10, coach. Thank God. I've never, I don't want to go 0 for now, but we're 1-9 in 06. And we go to it, and I'm thinking they're gonna give me another year to put this offense in. If I don't get it rolling, then then good Lord will take care of me. But it won't be here, and so we just stayed with it. stayed with the execution, stayed with the speed, stayed with the practice. We'd already sold it to them. Hey, this can get us over the hump.
Yeah, that had to be some trying moments, like you said, at 0-4, and that's when you got to stay with the program. I mean, what an incredible turnaround story you had there. Because Coach, it's Lago Vista. I know that on the long history, like you said, it was a new school. It was 2000.
Yeah, they started football in 2000. So they opened a new school in 1976 and didn't have football.
Oh, okay. That was it. And folks out there listening, like Lago's only about 30-minute drive from Liberty Hill. So Coach was right near the Mecca there to learn, from the late great Jeff Walker. And, it's the way that you're 5 years in or whatever, when you switch to it. And, you've got to have that unwavering belief that we're all in on this. We're going, because there are similar stories that the first year, putting it in and a little struggle there, and you gotta stick with it. And there's as many as our slow start stories, there's every bit as many incredible turnaround stories.
Yeah. Where I was heading a while ago with people coming to visit, I was saying, I've had big schools, 5 and 6A, just call or want to visit and say, Coach, we're not going to run it. But we want a package, or we want a short yardage. And I've had some just going to say, Coach, give me your best short yardage play. What would you do? And I'll tell them, but I say, but in order to do that, you're going to need to practice that daily. Yeah. Like it over and over and over. And so that's where I was heading with people coming to visit, people asking questions of, it's not a couple of play series or short yardage. It's all in. It's from the way, the organization of how they put their clothes in the locker, and it goes back to that. But so during COVID, speaking of Coach Walker, and I'm at my desk right now, and I've got his memory card of his picture and the verse here that they used, that just talked about him. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. And it just, we share the same birthday. He was born in 1968 on September 10th, and I was born on September 10th, 1969. And so, he's a picture over my desk because he's the inspiration. And, on COVID, we did Zoom just like this a couple different times because, we're at home and we can't go to school. We can't really go anywhere. And, he put his computer on his back porch and more, we just get to work. I'd have my notepad and I'd be asking him, and I'd say, hey, is what come up that maybe gave you a problem? And COVID helped me too, because I got a chance then to reach out to him a couple different times. And then Zoom, this first Zoom I'd ever been on, and what was with Coach Walker, because, we couldn't do anything, but we could definitely communicate, over that time. And so, man, I owe it to him.
Yeah. We think back to those years that it was 25 absolute years of dominance at Liberty Hill. Maybe not the 8 or 10 state championships of a Lido or Carthage, but I think it's 11 or 12 semifinal appearances over a 25-year period. Almost every other year they're in the semis. 4 years in the state championship game, and they won the 2. And this is with going from 3A to 4A to 5A. It's such a growing community. Talking in another podcast about how there's a restaurant there now, Slot-T Beer Company, restaurant and brew house and stuff. Like, it's so interwoven in the fabric there. And you look back, like I don't know if you went to their 2 state championship games. This is before Jerry World and playing them all indoors. 06, 07, they played both of them at old Floyd Casey Stadium in Waco.
I was at both of them.
You were? Yeah, so was I. The Gilmer one's the coldest football game I've ever been to in my life.
I sit on the home side, and I think that was dumb because maybe we were in the shade. But I think that's where Liberty Hill was, so that's why we were over. I took my middle son, and good God, we were squirming in there, and they had about 8 D1 dudes, all over the place. And then, of course, the other one, the wind was blowing too. Was it Salina?
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And I sit there right by the where the players go in and coaches go in, in old Floyd Casey, and not only got to say, hey Jeff, and then Draper Was he there at the time too? I think I remember him
Yes.
waving at me
Yes.
because, you know, he got used to me seeing my face over there. There's the groupie hair, you know, he's like a dadgum mole. He's always around, but I just esteemed him, you know, I esteemed what they were doing and how they did it. And, just everything they did, you know, the organizational piece on the sideline and getting them over and getting on the board. And, you know, nowadays we do the same thing, you know. I'm not sure if it was you or Jeff. So immediately, you know, after we figure out where they're lined up and they tell us, and of course you told me I get those guys to give me that, you know, they give me the hand, because it's hard to tell from the sideline sometimes the people upstairs can't see the technique. But so after we meet that first time, every time on the chairs after we come off the field, you know, we'll go to the front real quick, because you can't give kids too much. Just give them something and let's roll. But I always tell them, here's what we're starting with. Here's the first play coming out. Is everybody good? Everybody know what we're doing? Everybody clear? And so, and I got that, because, and that gives them now, it's got, whether it's 5, 2, 3 minutes, it's already have them time in their mind, mentally focusing on what their first play was.
Yeah, you know, I think I got my 6 years at Liberty Hill later in my career, and it's just, I always wanted to get there, and I didn't care in what capacity. You know, I wanted to coach with Jeff, and he was getting very, very sick. You know, I wanted to find those little corners that took it to that next level, just even for myself, just to know, you know. And what a great 6 years, you know, 4 semifinals and a state championship game and things. But I think so many people look up to Liberty Hill in Texas, us Slot-T guys. It's the Mecca. Like, we know have always run it better than anyone else. And, you know, regardless of championships and things like that, when you look at the type of kids Liberty Hill has and the success they've had in the 6,000 and 7,000 yard rushing seasons repeatedly and winning games. When I was there, we beat Hutto 82-80 in regulation. You know, beat Sharyland Pioneer 56-53 with their great quarterback there, Eddie Lee Marburger, who's played at UTRGV, and we rushed for 729 yards. You know, these crazy stats you roll up, and year after year, averaging over 50 points a game. It's truly the Mecca, and it's heartbreaking. It looks like they're getting completely away from it. But again, that's another podcast for another day. Change happens in life. But when you go back to those state championship games, that Gilmer game, to me, first off, Salina was the first state championship, and that was great. That was a bunch of old country boys just slugging it out. Very similar kids. You know, I remember Salina had a great kids going Oklahoma State defensive line, and, you know, Salina used to have that intimidation factor. Do you remember when they tackle, they gang tackle, and they'd all come up and pat you on the back of the head? They're you know, so they were pushing that boundary. You know, it's like they're being good sports, but when you're a ball carrier, you get, you know, drilled for a 2-yard loss, and 5 guys are run up and they're patting you on the back of the head like, great job. You know, that's very frustrating and intimidating. It was you know, and to watch Liberty Hill just get after their Astrodomes and just run it down their throat. You know, it came down to a field goal. It wasn't a blowout by any means. That's another great story. The Liberty Hill kicker kicked a field goal to win the game, a 35-yard or something in the wind, and he'd never attempted a field goal in his career. He kicked about 800 extra points that year, but he never attempted a field goal, and he won it. But, you know, to watch them run that ball right down Salina's throat, and those guys, they weren't so fired up about, you know, you remember their big fullback, Doug Allman, about 215 pounds. You patted him on the back of the head, you better watch out. But then the next year, that was the one that freezing. People are probably laughing at us in Texas here talking about cold, but man, I've never been so cold. And that wind blowing. I remember we talked about the old eyeball getting off the bus. There's not many of us who beat people in the eyeball contest getting off the bus. And Gilmer had to be the ultimate disparity there. You know, Liberty Hill had a few good looking kids, but a whole lot of, you know, just 180 pound kids running around. And Gilmer had 7 or 8 D1s, you know, 6'3" receivers, and you're watching in warm up and just thinking, how are they going to hang with them, you know? And Gilmer runs back the opening kickoff for a touchdown. They missed the extra point because it's so windy, and you're just thinking, oh, this could get ugly in a hurry. And then Liberty Hill just settles in. and they just start bludgeoning him running that ball in the misdirection. And the Gilmer kids are frustrated. And if you remember, that wind was such a crazy crosswind. I think Gilmer had 7 or 8 quarterback shotgun snaps at 4 or 5 yards that the quarterback couldn't catch. The wind was taking the ball, and he's lunging for a snap that wasn't a bad snap. That's how windy it was. And I remember sitting there, and I'm already 7 years at this point in the slot T. I don't need to be sold, but I'm sitting there in the stands thinking, this is the greatest testimony for running the slot T offense I've ever seen. I don't know if anyone will, that game will be able to, the number of D1s, the weather factoring in so much, and just the precision of Liberty Hill. No, those kids quit. It ended up 38-6 for Gilmer, and they just wore their smooth out.
Wow. I think I remember their running back was committed to OU. I'm thinking this is going to be tough for Liberty Hill.
Yeah.
I think that same kid took the opening kickoff something. But, I'm a supporter, so and then it turned out they just kept on keeping on. The one thing about Jeff, if it's working, he ain't going to go away from it. He'll make you like it. You know what I mean? Like he might run the same play 3 times in a row, kind of like that guy tap you on your helmet. He's telling you can't stop it.
Yeah. Hey man, when he came back to Liberty Hill and he was out a couple years because he was so sick, and then Jerry Vance retires, and they were playing, I believe it was Austin Anderson. It was their second game, and he ran 3-3-3 tailback round the first 7 plays of the game. 7 plays in a row. And I think the shortest gain was 7 or 8 yards. And then just about the time you think, is he going to run again? He hit 349. They had nobody. Their guys were all falling in for trap, and they gashed him on that as well. But you're right. He was not afraid to just keep calling it and make you like it until you stopped it, for sure. That I was going back to that Gilmer game and talking about that. You talked about the running back they had, the receiver they had, and on our staff now at Blanco, we have Jordan Johns, who is our defensive coordinator in title under Coach Kent Walker. Phenomenal football coach. He's a great dude, but he played on those state championship games. He was a defensive tackle and about 100. He's about 225 now, but back in the day, playing days, he was about 185, and Gilmer looked like a small college team out there. It was like I said, it was a great testimony to see very, very average looking kids. Now, very, very rocked up from the weight room. We know that in Liberty Hill. We talked about the offseason, and, but I don't want to get off thoughts here. Eyeballing that thing, it didn't look like Liberty Hill would ever have a chance. And to that note, if you could speak a little, because I know you're such a huge believer in it, but Coach Walker would always say, I may be more innovative and great in the weight room when what we do is the slot T. Liberty Hill kids always stood out. You could see a Liberty Hill kid a mile away. Like I said, did not win an eyeball contest coming off the bus, but every kid from safety to guard to swingman, massive development, in the hamstrings, quads, rear ends, they're just so put together. Maybe if you could speak a little bit how that matches the offense, the grinding off-season weight room.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to go hand in hand. Everything we do, I just try to mimic, of course, what Jeff had already instituted and already learned, but at the end of the day, he's going to get more reps than everybody else. He's gonna make sure. Now, I don't think y'all use a minute watch. Y'all just kind of see how long you need to go until you feel like they've gotten enough of it. I still like to stay on time so that we get them in the shower on time and get them to class on time. But whether it's 6 or 7 or 8 minutes or 10-minute stations, if it's me and you working out, Coach Kilby, you'd go and then I'd go. You'd go and then I'd go, and you going until we're done. And if you're under the bar and it's time to rotate, you go and finish your reps. You're not submitting to that, and it's not for every kid. If they'll submit to that in the spring, they don't need to play for you. And so we talked about being tougher, and keep coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back. And that's what we are right now. Of course, I know you've heard the term Hell Week, but we just got through with Hell Week because it don't matter if they lift it a little bit over the break. We open it some here and there, but they can't prepare you for what we do, in the workout. Right now, on upper body, we're all those station plus bars, parallel bars. And I know early on at Liberty Hill, they wore out the bars, and we're still doing it. And so lower body day, it's just the same, whether that's, the step ups, the high lows, to the lunges, to the squats, to the milk, to all the reps that we can get in. And, the kids have got to withstand it. And once they get through that first week, getting that soreness out and get going, that's kind of what you're built on. Is our kids will tell you, and it's just like the sled, Coach Kilby. They don't live like us. They don't hit the sled in week 11. We're not putting the pads off the sled yet. And I know sometimes we take them in if we think bad weather's coming, but we're using it every week. And I tell them most people just do that the first few weeks of full pads, and then that just sits over and catches rust. Well, that's not going to be the deal with us, and that's not the deal with the kids with the weight room either. But again, you got to be specific and exact. And we've met sometimes. I've redone my notes on the leg curls and the Romanians and the lunges, and I think at Liberty Hill, you guys, if you didn't have 315 on there, you we'll make fun of you. Well, where I am right now, I'm at least trying to get them to put 2 plates on there. But lunge is a lunge, but yeah, let's do it with what you're talking about, 315, or, then you get acclimated to that and then you go up. But, that's your work ethic. I kind of, you can tell Kent this, we don't listen to music because I know he enjoys the clanging of the weights, and I probably got that from Jeff, and I do too, and coaches come here. But now on Friday, if we've had a decent week, we might play a little bit of music on Friday. Now in the summertime, we listen to a little music because Kent told me they listen to music on but Monday through Thursday, we don't listen to music. Do you still doing that?
Yeah, no, it's the clanging of the weights for sure. Yeah, in Blanco, we have those rubberized weights, so it's not as loud, unfortunately. It's not loud at all. But no, it's that culture and mindset. It's that culture and mindset that goes, like I always say, every coach is going to say, oh, we're big believers in the weight room. And then they come visit, people come visit us at Liberty Hill, and they're in shock. We've had college coaches, a guy from Kansas last year recruiting one of the kids, he was calling coaches the whole workout to tell them, you wouldn't believe what they do in the weight room. There was a D-line coach from Kansas. Him and another coach came back down a month later because they were on an upper body day and they wanted to see the lower body day. They came down to watch the workout. And you build that mindset, like you said, that belief in your kids believing that there's some bad dudes. Our kids at Liberty Hill call the upper body day upper lower body day. As I said, every day is lower body day in Liberty Hill.
Because of power clean. Because power clean, right? Too, you do power clean on upper.
Yep. There's some legs mixed in for sure. Yeah, and it's funny. Jeff was so unique. He used to say, Kilby, he said, I think we can do legs 5 days a week. They're 16, 17 years old. They recover. He goes, I might get fired, but I think we can do it every day. And I was never quite sure how serious he was. And as a head coach, I mean, I was very proud of how we got after it in the weight room. I thought we were, but I just saw it's like getting to working with him, little things in the Slot-T that you just kind of said, oh yeah, that's the secret sauce right there. I'm so glad I got to spend that time with them and coach with them and learn some of those things. When we played 2021, we played South Oak Cliff in the state championship game and succumbed to them in a close game. And we get back, we played the 11 o'clock game at Jerry World. So you're done by 2 in the morning, you're done by 2 in the afternoon, 1:30, and you drive back to 3 hours from Dallas, and it's Texas. You play right up to the start of Christmas break. So it's December 18th or whatever. And there's no school. You're going home for 2 weeks and going on Christmas break. And Kent's talking to the kids, and last game of the season, it's never comfortable. Speaking to them, and we had time to be on the buses and absorb it. And we got back, and I'm standing kind of in the corner, L-shaped, how we have the lockers set up, the coaches can see everybody, and two kids that were a sophomore and a junior were right near me. And as Coach Walker's talking, he said, he addresses the seniors and thanks them. He said, you younger guys, when, first day back, weight room's open a week in Christmas break, and then first day back, you know what we're doing. We're going. And the one kid turned to the other and said, we'd have won. He said, we'd have won if we squat more. We got to squat more. I thought, we have the ultimate buy-in here at Liberty Hill. That wouldn't be across the board, but all kids are going to make that statement. But you're talking about a program that squats at two stations. You have your squat station, and then you have your squat station. You get a couple of different stations in between. They're 9 or 10 minute stations. Like he says, you go, I go. I count some days. I'm like, okay, they got 18. We did threes today, which are a little faster. So sets of threes, and we got 18 sets in my squat station. They got the other squat station where, it's nuts to think kids do 35 sets of squats. And it was like you said, Jeff would always say, I just want to break them. I just want to break them because I want to do it now. And I want to see who I can count on the fourth quarter in December. That was his whole mentality. I'm going to find out who I can count on from January right through to August in that weight room. It was awesome.
That's exactly right. I still remember the break them, make them submit stuff. Got all that from him. You think you're tough until you go watch them work out and be tough. And I believe you tell me the story of, he gets sick close to his last few games where, he's making fun of the running back because they got tackled. You know what I mean? Y'all scored like 6 or 7 straight playing somebody, and every time he touched the ball, he scored. And he starts laughing at the one kid that does get tackled, and it kind of makes him lose his breath, and he's got to go sit down. That's him. You know what I mean? Like, he's pissed off at the 7th kid that didn't score on the first possession.
Yeah, he had a great way of challenging kids, no doubt. And, you mentioned the names, Bruce Bush, the Godfather, Jerry Vance, who's a defensive guy, but fully supported the Slot-T, never wavered. Whether when Jeff Walker was the coordinator and then he left for a head coaching job at Rogers, and Robert Draper became the coordinator, like, he never wavered. And working for Kent Walker, that's the same way. If you do have a bad game where you only score 15 points or whatever, you lose one, they're not second guessing the thing. They truly bought in, but the names, Bruce Bush, Jeff Walker, Jerry Vance, let's go. There's so many, John Hall, so many great Slot-T guys out there. And, Bruce was truly the guy. There's no doubt. And then Liberty Hill just seemed to take it to out there in the stratosphere in terms of execution. And I saw that there's an old website that kept the greatest, a lot of the USA for the whole country high school stats, and they would have the rushing records, and they had a top 20, and there's probably a school in Arkansas will never be beaten. It was like in 1919 or something, and they did it only 13 games where they rushed for like 8,500 yards or something like that. But Liberty Hill is in 5 of the top 15 rushing campaigns. 5 of the top 15 all time for the entire country. Every season over 7,000 yards to some degree, some close to that 8,000 yard mark. But the stats, the idea of, talked about this with Keith, the idea of 3 yards in a cloud of dust, it just doesn't apply. It's 70 yards in a mist of pebbles anymore. We're playing on turf, and there's so many big plays when run properly. And I'm like you. I'm just so humbled by guys that were patient with me and helped me learn, and just brought me along, and to be able to get to where you learned this thing and you took it and ran with it. You've had so much success, and I think we're both in the same boat here. We're super, super thankful to the guys who worked with us and helped us get it to where it's gotten to be for us.
Yeah, no doubt. And from Bruce and Let's Go, I've spent some time with him as well, and called him. He's very, anytime I've ever called him, he's more than happy to share. I think he was at Lockhart maybe before you. Is that correct? And then, Bruce mentions a guy named Doug Etheridge. I don't know if did they work together at George West as well, but then somewhere before then, and there's one more guy that he'll mention too sometimes, and I need to write that down and give thanks to all those guys when I get a chance to talk to other people. But then, from Les to John Hall and Draper and of course yourself. And I guess, I don't know how I tied in with you. I guess the first time was at San Marcos when you was the offensive coordinator for Steve Van Ness. And you said that was late 90s. Was that 98, 99? Oh, wait.
No, 2005 to 2008.
2005, 2008. That's when I first met you. So it has been 20 years, isn't it? That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's humbling, and it's you see the success you've had and the numbers and all that, and you just think, man, am I ever fortunate? I'm not a smart dude. I'm so fortunate. I found a system. I latched onto it, had good mentors, took it and ran with it. I love the details. I never get tired of the fundamentals. Fits my personality that way. Total teamwork, 11 hats, just screaming off the ball, misdirection running everywhere, can't find the ball. And, to be able to put this website out there and be able to get past this and share it along to guys all over the country is exciting to me. And, but man, I got to give a lot of thanks, because I couldn't have done it without patient guys along the way. Early in my career helped me learn this thing. Coach Billy Butler, and, he was under Bruce Bush from that whole family tree. And it's been a real enjoyable ride. And I hope moving forward, we can help a lot of people, in a great offensive system. You and I are such big believers in it.
Yeah, well, there wasn't anything out there when I was, learning it. So this will definitely help some young coach in what you're doing. The lineage, when we're done, somebody else can continue doing it. And so it goes back to, guys are smarter than us. Guys may, their mentality and all this other stuff, but one thing they're not going to do, just like this system and your players, you can be smarter and all that stuff, but you're not going to outwork me. And that's what the offense does. You may be better athletically on the other side of it, but you're not going to put in the work that we're going to put in to play you. Then you may beat us. That's fine. But we're going to be proud of our work that took place into that week. And then we're already looking for we learn what we learn and we move on. But one of the things I always tell our group before we play is like, I want to coach a team that nobody likes playing. I just want to be that coach that when we come to play or they play us, they really don't enjoy us playing us. If we can do that, I'm excited for you and for our program that when they're through playing, like, I'm glad we don't have them. And next week we can have somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are two things we shared. The one was we want to, at Blanco this year coming in, we want to be that team nobody wants to play. They don't want to play. We got a lot of feedback. We are having an extremely tough time trying to fill out a non-district schedule next year. This being realignment. We're getting a lot of seeing ads on, need a week 2, and we call them and, oh no, we found something, coach. It's a lot, Liberty Hill is really tough to schedule games because nobody wanted to play you. But, and a lot of that's the style, but we want to be a team that nobody wants to play. And we want to be that team that beats teams we have no business beating. We want 1 or 2 of those every year, or hopefully more. But, we want to look back and say, we know we had no business beating them, and we got after them and we whipped them, I think that's where your kids get the ultimate buy-in, because kids aren't dumb either. They can look across the line of scrimmage, look at them getting off the bus and think. But when you build that mentality, it's a good feeling when they know they can whip someone that running another offensive system, they might have no chance against them. It might be a 40-point drubbing, but they feel they've got that edge. They're different and they've got that edge.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Well, Coach, thanks so much, man. I appreciate this. This was a really fun hour, man. I know we visit all the time, but we got into old stories. I had a script of a few questions. I asked one, and we just went from there.
Yeah, we can save it from another time. That's awesome. I appreciate what you do, and I'll carry the banner wherever I go, knowing that we're doing it the right way.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Thanks so much, Coach. Appreciate it. And go Jarrell Tigers.
All right, brother. Good luck to you over at Blanco.
Thank you.
If this conversation sparks something for you, if you're curious about how the Slot-T actually works, how it's taught, or how it can fit your program, that's exactly what Slot-T.com is built for. At Slot-T.com, Coach Paul Kilby goes far beyond interviews and theory. He teaches the details of the offense, formations, motions, series structure, adjustments, and the decision-making that ties it all together. Not just what to run, but why it works and how to teach it clearly. Just as important, Slot-T.com is a community. It's a place where coaches are sharing ideas, asking real questions, and evolving the offense together, learning from each other while staying rooted in the principles that have made the Slot-T successful for decades. If you're looking to build a clear offensive identity, teach with confidence, and be a part of a group that's moving the Slot-T forward the right way, head to Slot-T.com and join the Slot-T Mafia.